Hey guys, what is up? Back with another episode on another lawnmower. So this one belongs to the same guy that I worked on the last one. This is a Husqvarna, and it is the LGT 2654. And it is also, that means it's a 54-inch deck. And just like his Craftsman, it also has the 26 horsepower Kohler. So the problem with this one is, unlike his Craftsman, this one is a hydrostat. He says that when it gets hot, it does not want to pull a hill. These hydrostats are known for issues. They came with two different ones, this model. I got to get it out of there and see which one it is. But I mowed my entire yard with it when he first brought it to me, and it got kind of sluggish, but it never really quit to the point that it never got, I guess it never quit pulling a hill like he said it does. Now, the fix for these, one, is you can rebuild it. Two, you can just find you another rear end and swap it. Or three, which is what I'm going to try to do to see if it fixes it. Because to me, it feels like it just getting kind of sluggish when it gets hot. It's kind of getting, the oil's breaking down. So what we're going to do is, you got to drop the transmission, rear axle, whatever you want to call it. The transaxle axle has to come out of it for you to service it. Well, we got to lift it up, get it off the ground, and there's, I think, 4, maybe 6 bolts that you got to take out for the axle to come out, and then you got to slip your belt off and all that stuff. So what I've done is I've used this handy dandy strap that I've got and ran it through these two wonderful cutouts on the back of this plate, so I can get it up off the ground and not have to use a jack. And that way I can use the jack to support the axle when it comes out, or I can let it down on the ground and hopefully just roll the axle out. Then we have to get the plug out of the axle and dump it. One of these transmissions that you can do does have a filter that you can change, one doesn't. So we're going to find out first what transmission is in this thing, or axle. Sorry, I can't talk. Another thing, guys, is sorry it's been so long since I've done anything. I've had a lot going on. Just kind of took a break from the whole YouTube video thing. You may not see as many videos from me as I have been putting out. I just been really busy with my everyday job and life, pretty much. I just got over having the thing with the pinched nerve in my neck, and now my knee is on its way out. So if you see me struggling in this video with my left knee, that is why. I'm waiting for a orthopedic to get in touch with me, because my left knee is completely ate up with arthritis, and it's bone on bone, and there's something wrong with one of the ligaments in my knee. So with that being said, it has slowed me down a little bit. I am still going to work, but I'm a forklift operator, and it absolutely kills me to drive a forklift because my knee hurts. And I also stand on concrete all day. But anyways, enough of my crap. Just wanted to give you a little update on what everything's going on. But let's go ahead and get into trying to get this thing tore down and figure out what we got going on and see what we can do to fix it. Got it up in the air. Let me show you guys what I got here. So you've got two bolts right here that has to come off. All right, you've got this spring that has to be disconnected. You've got these no, not them. These up here, there is a keyway. I can't get a good shot of it for you guys. Hang on. Right here, that you have to disconnect so you can get the basically your shifter handle disconnected from your transaxle, and that is for the brakes. So that spring has to come off. And if you look, this is a K46 transmission. So well, look it up and see. I don't remember if this one has a filter that you can change. If it does, we'll get one ordered. If it doesn't, then we're just going to change the fluid in it and see what happens. So I'm way up underneath this thing, and it's going to be hard for you guys to see much, but I'm going to go ahead and disconnect these two shafts and get them out of the way so we can get this this thing unbolted. So 2 bolts in front, and then 2 bolts on each side of your axle to drop this thing out. So we're going to do the front 2 first, and then I'll lower this thing down on the ground and drop these other 4, and then pick the body up off of the axle. But first I got to get this 2 rods out of the way, so let me get that done. Okay, so I got our spring out, and I got our 2 bolts out of that front plate, along with our pin for our shaft on our shifter. So we are ready to take out these 4 bolts and try to get this transaxle to drop down enough that we can slide that belt off and hopefully get her out of there. Now, I was looking, and I don't know 100%, but that axle looks like it's bent. It may not be, it may just be the way it looks, but it sure looks bent to me. I'm hoping not, but we'll be able to check it out better when we get it out of there. So let's go ahead and start unbolting these 4 bolts. And they do have a pretty long thread, so I want to go slow all the way around, enough that we can get it loose, but then sit it down on the ground to continue taking it out the rest of the way. That way I don't have to try to support the bottom half with a jack or anything. We're just going to use the wheels themselves. So let me set it up, and we'll get these things out of here. Okay. That one's loose. That one's loose. Okay. All right, that'll be enough on that side. Let's do this side. Try to get this rear one first. It's the bigger pain. Let's see if I can get on it like this. Woo, that one came out real far. A little more than I wanted. Okay. Now let's get this one. All right, and you can see that transaxle is trying to come out of there. So we're gonna lower this thing back on the ground And we're gonna lower this thing back on the ground and try to finish taking them bolts out, because we do have to push that transmission as far forward as we can towards the deck to get it out of there. Hopefully with the tires on it's enough. I might end up still taking the tires off, but we'll find out. I got everything back on the ground, got our bolts ready to come out, so I'm gonna hand unbolt it. There's one of them already fell out, so we got 2 bolts out of this side. Now I gotta get this side. There's that one. And there's this one. So all of our bolts are out of this thing now. So that should mean that she is free. It seems like it. I'm going to be very easy and pick this thing up and see what happens. Oh yeah. So don't forget this thing does have spacers in it that you gotta watch. They're rubber spacers. They're right underneath these tabs. So when you pick up, you gotta remember to pull them tabs. Or pull them tabs, pull them spacers out. I'm sorry. Special ed. So let's go up a little more here. There's one spacer, and they do have little knobs that them spacers go back down in there like this on each side. And here's our other spacer. So everything is loose now except for our belt. Gonna try to work that belt out of there without taking the fan off, but I don't know if it's gonna work. We're gonna see. Let it back down. Get some like pressure off of it. These blades are very, very thin, and it don't take much to break them. Just remember that. Come on, baby. Okay. I think we got the belt. This up. Let's see what we got going on. I think we're loose. Take a gander, make sure everything's going like it's supposed to. Now we're stuck on this little rod. All right, go up just a little more. It's hard for you guys to see what I got going on here. Hang on. So We're just pulling the body completely up off of the axle. You got to watch this little rod. This little rod is what you pull or push in to, you know, either have neutral or not neutral. So there we go. We're about out of there. Maybe a little bit more to get past the fan. We are out of there, guys. There is our transmission. So, with her out of there, of course, I gotta stand up and move so I can roll this thing back to me. Right here is gonna be your drain plug on this one. And we're gonna open it up here in just a minute and see just how much fluid is in it. All right, guys, so I told you wrong on this. This is not the fill. That is a relief valve. That is to, if it gets too hot or whatever, that is where it will release your pressure. The part that we've got to get to is right there. That's the relief and that's the fill. So in order to get to it, you have to get this fan off. And this fan, I just got done messing with it. You've got to take a freaking snap ring off of there. And I did not have the size that fit it. I finally got it off of there though. It was a pain in my butt. But all this stuff just slides right off. Oh, lost my washer. Don't lose your stuff. But then you have access to what you need. So let me get you all down here where you can see. So hang on. So this is your fill cap, and this is how you check it. So got to get yourself a screwdriver and get in there and just work around it until you get her out of there. They are usually stuck in there very good, and it is no fun to get these out. So we'll clean it up a little here and try to get this out, and I won't bore you with me sitting here trying to get this thing out of here, because it is not going to be a fun task. And I'm going to take the air hose and blow some of this thing off anyways, and I'll be back with you as soon as I get this out of there. Alright guys, so I got that thing out of there the best I possibly could. I'm going to have to sit here for quite some time and go over it. There is the magnet. That thing is terrible. I mean, the plug in this thing is disintegrated. It is full of metal shavings, and we're probably going to have to pull this whole transmission apart. Didn't want to have to do that, but we're going to have to look at it because I got a feeling it's pretty bad. Got our plug out the best I can. I'm going to go ahead and start draining it. So here we go. Just going to tip her on up and let her roll out of there. A lot of dirt came with it, but that is pretty nasty. That fluid is definitely bad. Well, if you can see it very well, but that is burnt pretty much. So we're going to pop this cover off of this thing You got to clean the surfaces and then put it back together with RVT. But yeah, I want to look at the filter and stuff, because as bad as that plug and that filter, or not the filter, but that magnet looked, I'm not too sure the rest of it's going to be any better. So let's grab us a socket here and take this thing apart. They do make a kit for this thing from the factory to add drain plugs into it. One here and then one over here, so you don't ever have to take this thing out again to change the fluid in it. So they recommend, hang on. So they recommend on these every 250 hours to have it serviced, and I think this one has like right at that or a little bit more. So it's about time for it, and usually that's about as many hours as you'll get out of one of these without having to do something to it. So let's go ahead and find a socket and take this thing apart and see what it looks like. All right, so there are 16 bolts that holds this cover on, and they are a 12 millimeter. All the rest of the bolts so far to take everything apart is a 13 millimeter. So a 12 and a 13 is all you need, and a screwdriver to get that plug out. Well, in my case, a razor blade, a screwdriver, and a pair of pliers, and I still don't have it all out of there. So let's go ahead and pop these bolts loose. If any of them are a different size, it'll be these two, and they are. So they're the longer two. So I'm just gonna stick them all in this magnetic tray. And let's see if we can get this thing apart. A lot of times they are very stubborn. We'll take the scraper and just get in here and work along it. Usually they have little bosses where you can go in to pry them apart. I gotta get down here closer to it. Oh, my knee. So we're gonna look for them little bosses here. Find my screwdriver and start prying a little bit. You don't want to pry too much on these ears because they will break, because this thing is just cast aluminum. So let me find our cutouts here. Can't find a one. You don't want to pry on this crap. That's a big bad no-no. I think one of them's right here that you can pry on. Let's see. Yeah. Come on, baby. There she comes. Back up some. Oh, don't do that. Stay there. Well, hang on. You know, I really need a jack or something to support this thing. because you're supposed to, when you take them apart, you're not supposed to have it on wheels because your axles will pull. So, yeah. Just a friendly, oh yeah, see, that's what happens. Well, let me grab something and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I got the cover off of her and it's not very pretty. Here's our housing, and if you can see, it does have a lot of metal in it, especially up in here and here. See all that? See all that metal in there? So that's not a good thing. She's definitely grinding a little. Your surfaces here, where your bearings go, they are wore into pretty bad. That's a lot of where your metal's coming from. Also, your bearing that sits in here is also wore pretty bad. Somebody used a lot of RVT sealer on this thing. I'm assuming the factory, they really gobbed her on there. So I got to get all that off. But this other half of this thing is not very good either. Of course, all of it decided to fall apart on me when I have it up on the wheels instead of sitting on a table. So of course our gear and all that stuff come flying out. Luckily, it's not very hard to figure out how it goes back together. Let me show you what I got going on. So this is your filter, and we're going to clean it. It's probably really hard to see, but there is a lot of metal shavings in that filter. So I'm just going to clean it up real good and put it back in. Hang on a second, let me sit this down. Our magnet that's in the case is pretty damn bad. So yeah, not too happy about that one. She's pretty bad. I'm gonna clean it up. You've got two more magnets. I don't know if you can see. There's two more magnets here and here that are absolutely covered. So we got to get them out and clean them. I'm going to move the filter out of the way. I'm going to clean this magnet off the best I can. I'll probably have to take it in and clean it with some hot water and soap. Get everything cleaned off of it. Best way to clean a magnet is stick it in a Ziploc baggie and take another magnet and just pull all your shavings into that Ziploc baggie and throw the baggie away. I don't have any brake clean. I really need to go get some brake clean to finish cleaning this thing the way it needs to be cleaned. Because down in the bottom here, all that oil, I don't know if you can see it, it's super sparkly, so that means that there's a lot of metal in that. So all that needs to be cleaned out before we put it back together. I want to get this magnet out of here. So you got to pull this one bolt. Let me find my impact gun here. I don't know where I put it. It's behind me, of course. I think it's the same size. Nope, it's 13. 12 and 13. Let's get our 13 wherever I put it. And then we got to clean all the surface back off. I'm just going to use a little razor and clean that up. And I think I've got some RVT sealer. And we just got to RVT seal it and put it back. Make sure all your parts that may or may not fall apart or come out of there, go back in the way they do, or supposed to. So right here, I don't know if you can, I hope you can see, is your brakes. So this has what they call a wet brake system. So right here is your brake shoes. When I pulled the cover off on this one, the shoes came with it, because somebody got RVT on that and it stuck to the what do you call it, to the cover. So when I pulled the cover, my shoes came out. So make sure you get all that stuff off and put it back where it's supposed to go. Really don't know where my freaking 13 went. Here it is. I think it's a 13. No, it's actually bigger. 14? It is a 14. So 12, 13, 14. We're just going to pull that one bolt. Because I'm not going to pull the pump on this thing. I really, after looking at it and stuff, it really does need to be rebuilt. But like I said, he does not really want to spend the money on it. And I may actually have a used rear end that's in better shape than this one in my junk pile. But we're going to try this fix on this thing first, and if it doesn't work any better, then we might go ahead and put the used I've got in it. So there's your magnets on the back of that goes to your pump, and they are horrible. That is the worst I have ever seen taking one of these apart. So this thing has been used and abused, and it's very obvious. So I'm going to go clean our filter and our magnets. Look at the stuff just in there that's all just metal shavings. It is bad down in the pump, but it is what it is. We'll clean it up the best we can, and I'm going to throw. They recommend synthetic, but I am going to run some 20W50 instead of 10W30 in this thing, and I'm going to run some Lucas additive in it, some synthetic Lucas additive, to try to prolong it and just keep it where it's running good. So let me go ahead and clean this stuff up, and we'll get back to it. Got everything cleaned up. Got our filter cleaned, our magnets are cleaned. Everything down in there is as clean as I'm going to be able to get it. So our next step is going to be, we're going to put our cover back on. Now take note, this gear right here, okay, so it goes in there only one way, and when you put that cover on, that's when that gear will flatten out. It looks like it's crooked, but it's not. Make sure that your brakes are back in where they go, and make sure your little rubber stopper is in there where it goes. So now that everything is cleaned up really nice, and I've made a huge mess of the floor, let's go ahead and put this cover back on. So they actually make a RVT sealer for this. I'm just going to use the Permatex Black. It works just as good. It's oil resistant, so that's what you want. And we're just going to run us a small bead around this, and then start bolting our cover back on. I did get, I don't know exactly where it's at right now, but I did get, here it is. I did get our new plug for the transmission, since the other one would not come out, and this is a nice upgrade. It is actually rubber, but it is also a copper piece, so it won't rot away like our other one did. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this popped open, and we'll go ahead and run our bead on this and put our case back together. Okay, so I'm gonna run our bead along this side of the case, so when it goes together, it'll be exactly where it needs to be. So these little cutout pieces you see here, everywhere that there's them little cutout pieces, along here, all through here, that's all where you need to have sealer. So I'm just gonna start up here. Hang on, come on now. It's cold outside, so this stuff is kind of cool. It doesn't want to cooperate. Now you don't want to use a lot of this stuff. You just want enough that it's going to seal. Because what happens if you use too much of this stuff, then you're going to leak it down inside of here and you're going to have a mess. I'm going to cut this a little bigger. There we go. Test on it. Basically, I'm just gonna drop it on there and make sure everything looks good, and then we'll pull it back off and then look at it and make sure, and then we'll tighten everything up. So gotta make sure you get everything lined up. Come on now. There it went. All right, pull it back off, and it looks like we are pretty good on everything. I'll take this back in here again. I'm gonna add just a little bit to a couple spots here that I've seen did not squish out, and then we'll be ready for our final install. So everything looks pretty good now. Let's go ahead and assemble. Nice little couple little bumps to her. Make sure she's in there. And now we can start putting our bolts back in. Don't forget your two longer bolts. Your two longer bolts. One here. And one up here. That's your two longer bolts. They go in your pump housing. And boom, just like that, we are back together. Had just the right amount come out for our gasket. We're going to let that set up. But now we have got a working rear end again. Now we got to flip this thing around. And by flip it around, I mean flip it right side up, because this is the bottom. And get ready to put our fluids in and all that fun stuff that comes with it. I've also got to put our link back on it for the pull, for whether you want to push it or pull it or use it kind of thing. So let me get this thing flipped over. All right. Now we got her flipped back the way she's supposed to be. Just like this. I still got to put our plug and all that stuff back on that part. But we are in good shape now, or getting there anyways. The part that I've got to reattach is this piece right here for push and pull. So I'll do that here shortly, but I've got to go get the fluid for the rear end, and we can start putting our stuff in it. Okay, so we got our rear end sitting where it's pretty much level, and we've got to put oil back in it. So this is not what's in this bottle. I have made my own mixture to put in here. If you're just swapping oil, the best thing to use would be like 5W30 synthetic. In this case, I'm going to go a little bit further than that, and we're actually going to be using a synthetic mix that is pretty heavy, because I know this transmission has had some issues, or this whatever you want to call it, transaxle. So we're going to use something pretty heavy in this one. And if I quit making a damn mess, here we go. I'll pour a little in there here. I just made one ginormous mess is all I did just now. I have to get the brake clean out and clean all that off. But basically I'm just going to fill this thing up. I think they take 2 quarts exactly. This is a little over a quart because it's my own mixture. And by own mixture, it is 10W30, 20W50, and a little bit of synthetic Lucas. And I'm hoping that will help out with it getting hot and not wanting to pull hills. So it should be thicker, so it shouldn't break down, and then adding the synthetic to it will just help prolong the oil life. All right, so we got that thing filled all the way up to the top. If you see, here's your fluid movement. So now we're gonna go ahead and put this plug back in it so I can brake clean all that off of there, since I made a humongous mess. My bad. And then clean up the shop floor and all that good stuff, and then we'll go ahead and throw this rear end back in, or transaxle, whatever you want to call it, back in this lawnmower and hook everything up. So first thing I'm going to do is we've got to put your plug in it, and then we've got to put our fan and our pulley back on. I don't know why, but my camera cut out. But I'm almost got this E-clip back in here, I hope. Hell, I did. Hang on. I don't have the right tool for this size of E-clip, so I'm having to improvise. And improvise, I mean beat the shit out of it. Until it succumbs. Or I succumb, one or the other. In your hole. I think we're golden. Make sure, beat it around a little. Yep, we are right as rain. Okay, so sorry about the noise. I got the exhaust fan running. It's kind of fumey in here. For whatever reason, my camera would not turn on. I had to go switch batteries. But I am currently putting everything back together. Got the belt put back on. The rear end is just sitting in there. We got to put our spacers back in and lower down our rear end and bolt it, or lower our body back down and bolt everything in. So I'm going to slowly let this thing back down. So bolts are going in. It doesn't matter which way you put these in. They're supposed to go from the other side up, but it don't really matter. Put them in there however you want to put them in there. You can't get the impact in there, so these will just be a ratchet wrench. Alright guys, so I had to go get a new Carter key and got my damn knuckle pretty good putting that spring back on. But she is back on the ground. Rear end is completely in. Everything is hooked up. It's really cold outside, so not really gonna be able to take it out right now and try it out or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start it up in here and see if she moves under her own power. And then when it's a nicer day outside and it's almost dark, so couldn't really do much anyway. I'll take it out and do a test on it, but everything should be good to go. We put everything back the way it was, cleaned everything, and refilled with new fluid, cleaned the filter, and hopefully he'll get another couple 100 hours out of this thing. So let me go ahead and start it up and see if she moves. I'll have to probably lift it up and prime it. Alright guys, so she is put back together. It took a minute for that pump to finally, had to let it sit there and run for a few minutes up off the ground, the rear end, to let it build some pressure and get that fluid back into the pump. But there she is guys, back together, and everything works. So hopefully I'll get to go out and test it and see how it does, or he can test it and see what he thinks. Either way, and yeah. But sorry for the noise. Sorry it's been so long on a video, but that's it guys. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, give me a like, comment, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.